The chambers of learning were abuzz that day. Only those greatest in position amongst the science caste were there. Not even a single of the overseer class, nor a warrior, to keep the usually easily frightened science class controlled. Manes bristled as those there sought to contain their excitement, but failed. In any other place or time, such base display of emotion would shame the members of the science class, their entire family taking the short penance at once. But this day, none sought overseers, nor informed on one another. It was the most special day. They would this day converse with a human. Since the day that the humans had emerged from the Veil, those of the science caste given the unenviable duty of studying the Veil had gone from barely being above the labor caste to being considered for rebirth in the warrior or even overseer caste. All they would need to do is find the secret of the human ability to withstand the Veil, and their newest births would be blessed. But no revelations had come, much as they studied and prayed and experimented. Many lost themselves to the Veil's madness for nothing. But mere 2 passages ago, the warrior caste had found a smaller, weaker human ship, wandering at the borders of the Veil. The battle had been long, and many of the warrior caste would not know their rebirths, but the greatest of all the prizes that those in the science caste had ever dreamed of was captured, a living human. One who could be studied, discussed with, and if the science caste had their way, dissected for their purposes. As finally the door opened, all eyes turned to it. The slight ruffling of manes, now carefully controlled the only sound any heard. And then, entered the human. A size and a half of even the mightiest warrior caste, but somehow, disappointing. This was the creature that had emerged from the Veil. What secrets could such a strange creature hold? Though large and wide, it had no fangs to defend its rebirths as they formed. Only 2 manipulators, and its mane did not even cover its entire self. Devices carefully designed for such purpose quickly scanned and measured the body, but manes settled. This thing was obviously no threat to a room full of even the science caste, much less with the warrior escorting it, now in the room. It was led to the central dais, and swiftly the science caste surrounded it, settling back against their holdlegs, to peer curiously. And then the human bared its teeth, and manes fluttered in fear. HFY stepped forth, one manipulator nervously settling the last errant parts of her mane. She had won the right to address the creature in a simple trial, by formulating the position they would take with this particular human, and accepting the outcome on her and her own, solely. Should she succeed in finding answers to these creatures' immunity to the Veil, her rebirths would be overseers at the least. If she failed, her last rebirths would likely not leave the vats. A 4 manipulator lifted the translation device so painstakingly researched and filled with words, and she spoke. Human man, we give you hellos. Hello. Excuse, this translator is experimental. We seek understandings of your Veil madness, the lack. Part of HFY's mane ruffled slightly as the human turned its eyes, and only 2, to her. And it displayed its teeth again before speaking. Made by the lowest bidder, huh? I'm over Captain Howard L. Craft, since we're being polite and all. Hearing a human speak through the translators was an event. Perhaps the young science caste who had constructed it had performed better than expected. Not only were the human's words understandable, but it almost seemed to catch the emotion it had in them. Amused, perhaps. So unlike the broadcasts they had heard from human ships, the room itself seemed to relax as the humans' feelings suffused the room. They were like us. Not simply some monsters in bipedal form. Apologies, HFY replied, playing with her device until it seemed the feed stabilized, already adapting to the conversation. Truly magnificent engineering after all. I am HFY, of the science class. Your people have an immunity to the madness of the Veil, and we would benefit greatly from an understanding of such matters. If such an understanding was found, you could return home to your caste, with the honors of our people, and our overseer's apologies, for the manner which you were brought here. The human, Howard, leaned back against the dais in the only one-half passages. Since the science cast were told this meeting would occur, there was no time to adapt the room to the human's needs, so its comfort was not accounted for. Unknown to the human, as the conversation had begun, infusions had been put into the air to aid openness and trust. The science cast members in the room had, of course, been inoculated against these, but they seemed to be functioning on the human well. And indeed, with eyes just faintly starting to list. It's an old story. I mean before we even left our home planet. You know, you don't really think about things till they hit you right in the face, you know. We always thought it was just old stories. Tiny rustles of anticipation were seen in the manes of the scientists across the room. The human was obviously under the effects of the infusions as it spoke. Long time ago, like I said, before we left our homes, we knew there was something else out there. Not, you know, you folk. And here an arm waved at the crowd who despite themselves, inched back. A brief reminder that this thing was significantly more powerful than them. So, they were watching us all along, you know, these, what you call them, gods. Maybe. That's what we thought of them as. Anyways, they stayed out of reach, just watching us, letting the madness overtake us and laughing about it. Till one day, they came down to see what the madness was doing to us up close. And some lucky human caught them off guard and found they weren't gods after all. And then that lucky human ate his god. Manes bristled at that, and a few of the science cast even flared fully. None would report that, of course. In light of this, there were beings who maintained the veil. And humans had killed one. And still under the madness, devoured it. What manner of abomination was this? The human, still in the grips of the infusions, apparently unknowing of the effect its words had, continued. And then something strange happened. He wasn't mad anymore. So he waited till another one was there and did it again, but shared it with others. And then again and again. And when they had kids, whatever was in them baked into their skin, and no humans were mad anymore. The old things drew back from humanity, thought to leave us on our planet while they kept their madness going. But we changed, and every time we unlocked more of the world, we found them. Again and again and again. The burst of amusement from the human was anything but reassuring this time. Now there's none left that we can find, but we will find them. Hope I get to be the one to do it. I've always wanted to know how they taste. Recordings of counterintelligence operative Howard L. Kraft on mission to the Ajani. Scenario Eldritch used. Author's name and link to original text is in the description.